Hello and welcome, I'm Liam the Music Reviewer. Woke up like 15 minutes ago at the time of recording this, so if I sound sleepy or if I look it, which I definitely do, then apologies. But if you don't know what Reading and Leeds is, it's a music festival in the UK, takes place in Reading and Leeds. They alternate days, so basically you can go to either Reading or Leeds and you'll still get the same lineup. It's a pretty nice concept, though I still can't remember for sure what days are here and what days are where, but it's Friday to Sunday either way. Usually takes place in the last week of August, and this year 21st to 25th of August. So we're just going to go through the headliners, the undercard, see what I make of it, any sort of wee bits I can say as well during. We'll go just during the Leeds days just to make it easier. So the Friday will be Foo Fighters headlining. Good choice in that a lot of people seem to be complaining about a lack of rock bands at Reading Leeds, which I think is quite daft, because Reading Leeds has always been sort of the kind of place that teenagers will go, and so the lineup's always sort of reflected like that demographic. So again though, I think Foo Fighters have always been a band that sort of appeal to any sort of generation. My people my age liked them when I was like 16, 17. I went back to them recently. I still think they're good. So I think it's good if you're going to get like a band that have been kicking about for over 2 decades, you need to make sure they're still big and still relevant. And I think Foo Fighters definitely are, though I wouldn't go down to see just them, especially because they just announced a Glasgow, Belhouston summer session date here, which I would, if I was wanting to see them that desperately, I would go to that. So an undercard that day, pretty pathetic. Bastille, Sundara Karma, the Amazons, Youngblood are the only names that pop out to me just now, so I'm not going to say anything about those other three, just because maybe I would end up liking them, but as it stands, those four that I recognise are just not any good, and definitely wouldn't tempt me to buy even a day ticket there. So here's hoping that come next year that we actually get some support acts or alternating acts that day that are a bit more appetising. Saturday at Leeds, 1975 are headlining, which shouldn't surprise anyone with any sort of knowledge of music, because they've always been on the rise. The recent press circuit for this new record that's coming out, is it this Friday, is it next Friday? I can't keep track of it, but regardless, it's going to be a huge album, regardless of how it goes down in some people's books. When it came to Transmit last year, I almost said the name of my site there. Again, to Transmit last year, they were technically co-headlining, or at least like the special guest of the day that Biffy were headlining. So I knew from that day on that if I was ever going to see them at a festival or see them on a festival lineup, they're going to be very high up. And headlining didn't seem like an impossibility to me. So I think that's a good choice, especially because, like I say, this is more of a contemporary choice, but one that makes sense to me, considering again how big they are. Undercard for that day. Juice WRLD is another one who's just came up in the past year, so it makes sense why they would get him. Personally, find him quite trash, so again, wouldn't really appeal to me. Pale Waves obviously are there just because 1975 are playing the same day, and you wouldn't want to give somebody deja vu if you're making them play the Sunday or the Friday. Hayley Kiyoko is a name that I recognise, but I can't for sure think of a solid like opinion in my head, so I'm not going to say anything. Bowling for Soup, first band I saw live, such a cheesy rock band, but again might be one that the same thing they're trying to do for the Foo Fighters, have somebody that's sort of like a nostalgia. I don't think they've even got half the reception that Foo Fighters managed to get. This come from somebody who'd considered himself a fan of them beforehand, but I'm glad they're still kicking about. It's sort of nice. It's whenever it's like when I see like Real Big Fish or anything like playing, I'm like, I'm definitely nowhere near as big as I was into whenever I was younger, but it's nice to see you guys are still doing what you're doing. But undercard here again isn't really doing much for me. And on the Sunday, same can be said, though the headliners I think are interesting, having Post Malone, 21 Pilots do sort of what Queens of the Stone Age and Paramore did in 2014, I believe. With the co-headline thing, not that they've been the only like thing to ever co-headline, but for this year that's what's happening, and I think that's a smart choice because Post Malone is really huge, and I think at this point if you're to get him I think like if you're trying to get him to headline next year, as in for like 2020, yeah, you would need to make him like a full-on headliner, which would maybe be sort of a worry for any sort of festival organizer for Leeds and Reading. So I think having him on with 21 Pilots, who are also huge, like Sunday I can see being absolutely mobbed. Totally different demographics that will be interested, I would say. Not to say that you can't be a fan of both, but I think that they definitely are trying to appeal to different ones here. And Undercard, Blossoms, not good. Billie Eilish, Teflon Don. Billie Eilish, I listened to a song, I just didn't care for it. Not listened to Teflon Don, Crewcast, G-Flip. Paris are tolerable, but again, I've never really like stood out to me as something that I'm hugely invested in. And just like a brief overview of this whole lineup, I think last year it came to it that Fall Out Boy and Panic at Disco were playing. I can't remember for sure. I think, yeah, they were both headliners, or at least Fall Out Boy were, and it's kind of, Fall Out Boy, well, they're maybe more popular than they've ever been, definitely I think a bit of a lame choice. So having 21 Pilots to appeal to that same demographic is quite smart, especially because regardless of what I made of their last album, they're definitely trying to be more interesting as well. So from a critical perspective, a commercial perspective, having them on is a smart choice. Definitely seems like they're trying to be more kind of like they had Kendrick last year as well, which I thought was a good choice. And having Post Malone, I guess, is that sort of hip hop answer, though to the degrees of which he is a hip hop artist are to be kind of debated until the end of time. 1975 is a good contemporary choice as well. That one will do numbers. And then Foo Fighters, like, it's the Foo Fighters, that is just a smart choice, but you can tell that a lot of the budget is went on them, considering just how weak the undercard is. There's definitely a discussion to be had about the diversity on show for this year. I've actually already did a video a few months back, I think it was actually near the start of this year, about gender diversity at festivals, so I'll link that just here. Over the next few months, maybe some acts will pop up and that are really good and maybe are a bit smaller, that they'll kind of go, let's get them on board. So let's see what happens there. Let's see what happens on there. Let me know what you make of this announcement, who you would like to see to be announced over the next few months. And yeah, thank you for watching, guys. My voice is going. Stay safe and stay hydrated. I better go do that just now as well. Bye.